Hi friends, welcome to Creative DIY Purpose. This week I have 6 easy scrap wood projects that you are going to love to create. And be sure to let me know if you're looking for even more ideas for scrap wood projects. I have a lot to share with you today, so come on, let's get started. Here's a common list of materials and tools that I used for the projects today. Additional supplies will be posted on the beginning of each project, so that way you can take a screenshot if you like. I only cut simple straight pieces using my jigsaw. If you've never used one, these are so easy. It's almost like using a sewing machine. And for advanced cutting, it can even cut angles. And if you don't have a saw, another option is to go buy the wood new at the local hardware store, and a lot of times they'll cut it for you. So for this wood project, the first thing that I did was made some molds using air dry clay. I placed them in the freezer for 15 minutes, and the white that you see is from cornstarch that I brushed inside the molds so that the clay wouldn't stick. Now I'm going around with a wet brush, and that will remove any of the existing seam lines. And I lay them on parchment paper. This helps so that they don't stick to them, and it also will help to remove some of the moisture. I had a 2-foot scrap of pine plank, and it is 2.5 inches wide. I sawed it in half, applied some Gorilla Glue, and put the 2 boards together. And then I painted it white using the Acrylic Folk Art multi-surface paint. And now I'm going to add 3 of the clay pieces. They are still wet. I am applying them on with the Gorilla Glue, which I'm applying with a paintbrush, which is a lot faster because that bottle is kind of a challenge to squeeze glue out of. I used a razor blade to cut off the edges. I wanted a nice clean line. You could use a knife, putty knife, and probably even the side of your finger, but this worked well. And next, I want to make sure that each piece is nice and even and that it's pressed firmly onto the board. I did get a little spot of clay there, but I do wipe that off with a damp cloth. Next, I take the same white acrylic paint and paint the molds while they are still damp. And I wanted to see what it would look like if I took a dry cloth and tried to wipe off some of the paint. I wanted to see if this would give me the same age look as applying antique wax like I did on the mirror. And it did. And it was one less step. I know it would depend on what color clay that you're using. This was stone clay, so it worked out well. I thrifted this gravy spoon. I believe I paid $2.99 for it. I originally purchased it to make something similar to this, only make a hook out of it. But as I got going with this project, I got a different vision. I really wanted a cool clamp, as I did not want to just screw into the spoon. I thought it would kind of ruin the look. So I found this little silver clip. I should have used that. I think that the copper one would have almost looked better. I found these little birds for 10 cents each, and they were little funky colors. So I wanted to make them more neutral. One I painted with gray acrylic paint mixture, and then this little guy, he got a white mixture, and on both of them I did wipe it back a little to bring out some of the features. And then I nailed the clamp onto the board, so we've got the spoon all stable. Then I hot glued some Spanish moss inside of the spoon. I'm figuring out what bird is going to go in there. We're going to hot glue him, and then we're all set. All right, now we're on to project number 2, and I had a garden stake that I didn't need anymore. It's got that nice weathered look, so I cleaned them up. I cut it into 4s and sanded it. Now I'm taking gray and white paint so that I can dry brush on to the edges where I sanded. So I thought it looked like a pumpkin, so we're gonna run with it. I had this wooden candle cup. I'm gonna apply some antique wax. All right, while that is drying, I'm going to go and make some molds. I thought that these would make nice leaves for our pumpkin, so I'm applying some of the cornstarch into the mold. I absolutely love this mold. It's by Prima, and I do plan on ordering some more. It's excellent quality and super easy to use. I'm taking some of our favorite air dry clay. I think we have this in terracotta, white, and the stone color. So after I knead the clay, I'm applying it into the mold, and then I found the easiest way to get a nice smooth surface is just to apply some water on the top, and then just take this flat-sided tool and just smooth out the top. And then I place it in the freezer for 15 minutes and it pops right out. And I want to thank Kathy over at Crafty Kathy. That was her tip, and it has made such a huge difference. And taking a wet brush and smoothing out any rough spots or any places where there's a seam. Now it's time to place it onto our pumpkin. All right, now it's time to brush on some of that Gorilla Glue. Going to brush it right on to the bottom of the clay. Got the top all glued on, making sure all the edges are pressed down. Now I'm going to let that sit for a few hours and dry. It worked out so well that I used the stone color clay. I really like the way it looks. I just want to make that pop just a little bit more. So I'm going to take the white acrylic paint to my finger and going around the outer edges. So I want to add something to the top. I did struggle a little bit here with how many leaves to choose. I ended up picking just one eucalyptus leaf. I'm applying it with hot glue, and then I'll add just a touch of Spanish moss. And that completes this project. You guys will have to let me know what you think. I see wooden trays on Pinterest all the time, used from scrap wood, and I got these weathered boards. They are not pressure treated, so I was able to use them. They had been outside holding up a tarp. Now there's a lot of holes in them and places where there's missing wood. I measured out 30 inches long. This was such an easy project. The biggest challenge that I had was with sanding so that the pieces would line up a little better, a little closer together. And then you can see some of the areas on the top where I nicked it a little too much with the sander. I do dry brush some of that gray paint on that I used in the previous project. These handles I picked up at Restore last summer, and I was gonna clean them up, and then I thought, you know what, it goes with the rustic look, so I guess we're good to go. I measured, then drilled the holes, and then screwed in the handle. Using some of that leftover wood, I cut two pieces at 13.5 inches long. Use some Gorilla Glue to adhere the two pieces. Next, we'll attach this metal coat hook. I apply some Gorilla Glue onto the back of the hook just for extra stability. Because the only screws that I had were silver, I do take some black acrylic paint just to cover up the silver screws. Next, I take jute twine and wrap it up around the top, and I thought this gave it a really rustic look. Prior to this step, I did take the gray and white paint mixture, I watered it down and applied it to the back. Once I get the twine all tied and cut off from the back, I add a little chalkboard clip that I clip on some ribbon, and this project's all set. Here's a quick and easy idea for when you have those small pieces of scraps. This one was a foot long and 3.5 inches wide. I had to cut the edges even and then sand it. Now I'm applying one coat of the white acrylic paint from Folk Art. It's multi-surface. It actually had really good coverage. I only had to apply one coat. Next, I took 4 of the wooden candle cups, applied some antique wax, and then I watered down some of the white paint and did like a whitewash over it. Next, we're gonna brush on some of the Gorilla Glue to apply the feet onto our little riser. Once those dry, we're all finished with this project. I had a scrap of pine wood that was 7.5 by 11. So once I got it all sanded, I'm going to apply some antique wax over the whole entire piece. The front side has already dried. So after I let this back side dry, I have to show you guys, look at the cool knot in that. It reminds me of a sunshine. So my original plan was to wrap jute twine around this and turn this into like a photo holder and have a section in the top and the bottom, but I decided to turn it lengthwise, and we're just going to take that twine and we're going to go right around the middle. So you want to make sure that you tie it really tight. You could even apply some glue because you want to ensure that the photos are going to stick in there. I think I wrapped it around like 5 times and tie it really tight, and you could definitely even glue it onto the back if you want, just to help keep it in place. I think that a larger one would be really nice to be able to display your child or grandchild's artwork. Friends, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure. Hi friends, welcome to. I will see you towards the end of this week for a bonus video and again next Sunday. Have a super blessed week and God bless. More ideas for scrapwood projects. I have a lot to share with you today, so come on, let's get started.